Hey, and welcome back to Unqualified Critics. We've got a little bit of news here, actually leaked through the FCC's website. So the FCC won't let me be on Arcade1up's upcoming NBA Jam cabinet. Given that all the trade shows have been canceled, we have to kind of take our news where we can get it. There's just not a lot of information out there about the upcoming Arcade1up products. Also, I know many of us are stuck working from home or, God forbid, laid off. Hopefully these videos give you a little bit of entertainment and can just get your mind off things for a second. So let's dive in and look at this. I first saw this from a fellow YouTuber Cool Toys video. Props to him for finding these documents initially on the FCC site, but of course this information is publicly available, so I wanted to look at it. And on that video it was questioned, would this cabinet have Ethernet? And we have our answer actually if you look closely at these pictures, I believe. But first let's look at what we do know about the Arcade1up NBA Jam, because we already have actually quite a bit of information that was revealed at CES. Unlike pinball, you can tell that the design for this cabinet really is finalized. So one, it is online enabled, and that's the question of this video, is how do we get connected? We know Wi-Fi antenna is there. I don't believe Ethernet is there, so we're going to look at that. Number two, you do get access to dip switch settings. The dip switch would be the controls that arcade owners could access so that they could change things like difficulty or how long you could play on a single credit. And it makes all the sense in the world as the owner of these home arcades for us to have access to those settings. So I'm really glad that's being included here. Probably should have been there from the start, but hey, we're getting it now, and hopefully we're going to get dip switch access to all future Arcade1up releases too. There also will be optional scan lines that you can enable or disable, and scan lines is the kind of thing people either like or they hate it. It seems to draw strong opinions for some reason. I personally like it, but look, the fact that you can turn it on or off, that's all that matters. If you don't like it, or even if the scan lines are poorly implemented, at least we know we can turn them off. But I do like really emulating the look of an old school CRT monitor, which of course is what those scan lines do.
Well, I was talking to John D, who's the SVP. So the FCC won't let me be.
And we also know this will be released as part of a $500 bundle at GameStop, although I am very confident we can expect this at lower price tiers, unbundled, and at other retailers. But it will have a light up marquee. It does of course include a riser, which makes sense. It's a 4-person table. The riser itself is branded and it looks good. I've had some opinions before about the design of these risers. I think it ought to blend a little better with the cabinet itself and look like one singular design. They don't quite go for that with this cabinet, but it does look good. And we get that light up deck protector, which has been confirmed, but we don't really know what it'll look like. All right, so let's dive into these pictures a little bit. Here we get a shot of the PCB chassis that's mounted behind the monitor. It looks like we're getting the same monitor we've had before, which is perfectly serviceable, perfectly good for horizontal games. Vertical games, another story. And then we can see all of the IO on this board, and actually begs the question where the connection for the light up deck protector will live. But maybe this is the version that doesn't have the light up deck protector, or maybe that feature's been cut. I don't know, that isn't addressed here. We can see the audio here. This goes up to the speakers under the marquee, which I'm sure will be stereo. We see the light switch here for the marquee itself. We see power, and then this is the only new piece of the puzzle. That's the cable to the Wi-Fi antenna. So the Wi-Fi antenna will be internal to the cabinet, which is cool, so it's not ruining the look of the arcade. Would have looked a little weird if this stuck off the backside. Now, Cool Toy in his video questioned if we could connect Ethernet to the Wi-Fi antenna, but I'm gonna say that's not possible because, for one, we don't really see a cable connection here. There's no touch point. If you look at the outside of the cabinet, you can tell there just are no ports on the side panels, which thank God for that, because that would really have looked bad. But even on the back, you can see there are no additional ports. I've got this little hole here, but that's always been there. That's for you to get your finger in and pull this backboard off if you need to. And then we've got the power cord that sticks out on the back. So that is exactly as it's always been designed. Furthermore, and I couldn't find the video, but I'm very sure there was a video somewhere where Arcade1up Arcade1up representative talking about their pinball table would not have Ethernet connectivity. All right, so we're not going to get Ethernet on this cabinet. What does that mean? I think that's perfectly fine. For one, I'd kind of suspect that most of us don't have Ethernet connections nearby where we have our arcade machines. There are ways around that. You can run your internet connection through your power line, actually, and get adapters. I've done that before. That's kind of a nice solution, but it also just doesn't matter that much. A game like this isn't going to be super delicate to play online. This is not a fighting game where the inputs are extremely fast and they have to be registered very, very quickly, or else you could lose a match unfairly because your ping was a little worse than your opponent's. An online fighting game, that's crucial. But when we look at a cabinet like this, where you're really just registering a couple actions that the different players can make, where the players are located, there's just not a ton of information. But additionally, the difference in ping between an Ethernet connection or just a Wi-Fi connection is only a couple thousandths of a second. And for a game that was made in the 90s, simplistic gameplay, I just don't see a lot of need for Ethernet. And I imagine they saved a few bucks by leaving that off the board, but they also don't have to redesign this back panel or anything to get cable connectivity. I think Wi-Fi only is perfectly fine. I did think it was a little interesting that the button to toggle the Wi-Fi on and off is just a round arcade button. I would have thought the sort of toggle switch that you use to turn the cabinet on and off would make more sense. That way you could look down at it to see if your online connection is enabled or not. So it seems like a funky design decision, but not that big of a deal either way. And the final thing I noticed from these pictures, we have square gates. So this is gated for proper 8-way gameplay, which is what NBA Jam used in its arcade original form. Now, I think it was Retro Ralph in a CES interview a few months ago saying that by playing with this control panel, it does feel like we're getting the Sandwalk clone buttons and sticks. And that's what I would have expected, especially with the number of sticks here. But it is a little disappointing at that $500 price point to not get name brand controls. Now, we do know that that Ferrari tier cabinet is out there somewhere, and eventually they will announce that. Whether or not they announce that tier for NBA Jam, I don't know, but for those of you who aren't familiar, that's going to be the top level Ferrari, Rolls-Royce, whatever you want to call it, cabinet that's going to be the most arcade authentic. So my hope is that eventually we get a line where you can buy these different titles with truly the original, be them Sanwa or Hap or whatever, original controls. That's all we have for now. I know news is a little dry right now on some of these products. There just isn't a lot going on. We're in between trade shows, and then the trade shows themselves got canceled, but we'll keep an eye out for you. Any information we see drop on these arcade products, I'll be sure and let you know. If you enjoyed this video, hit like, and let me know in the comments what you guys think. Are you looking forward to NBA Jam? Are you holding out for pinball? Or maybe you're that one lone guy that really just wants Frogger? Let me know what you think. Catch you guys later.
Dripping lights paint the sky.